Thanks for watching The Thought Criminals, which you can find at thoughtcriminals.ning.com. We are named after the resistance to the totalitarian thought police of George Orwell's 1984, which we now refer to as being woke. I'm your host, Rachel Alexander. I'm a weekly contributor to Town Hall and other sites and the editor of Intellectual Conservative. And this is my mall, Ralph Benko, who worked in or with the Reagan, W. Bush, and Trump White Houses. He's a weekly columnist for Newsmax, co-author of the Capitalist Manifesto, and co-founder and executive chairman of the 188,000 member Capitalist League Facebook group. We encourage everybody to go to thoughtcriminals.ning.com and sign up. Today, we're going to discuss the results of the Arizona primary election where all the Trump candidates won. And then we're going to pivot to...
Both of the Trump candidates won.
No, there was a bunch.
There was a bunch?
There was a bunch, right down to the Arizona legislative race where House Speaker Rusty Barnes, a hardcore rhino who defeated a lot of Republican bills, was ousted by something like 20 points. So anyways, then we're going to pivot to a modest proposal that Ralph is proposing for members of Congress. And then we're going to round it up with some wokeness going on and what the former head of the ACLU is now saying about it.
Some anti-wokeness coming from the left. So bring it on, Rachel Alexander.
Okay, so here in Arizona, we've been closely covering these races. You've got the governor's race, which pitted Trump-endorsed Kari Lake against what I characterize as a rhino, Karen Taylor Robson. Kari easily trounced her by 4 points. And then in the U.S. Senate race, you had the Trump-endorsed Blake Masters ended up winning. We've discussed that. I think he's a Trojan horse. I think he's going to be easily defeated in the general election. I already went and did the numbers looking at where Martha McSally, another bad Republican candidate, where she was polling against...
good person, bad candidate, just...
Fair enough. Fair enough. So she was already in office. So she already, had kind of an incumbent advantage, what have you. It made her look better. And yet this time 2 years ago, when she was running against Democrat Mark Kelly, she was behind about 5 or 6 points in the polls. Well, she ended up losing substantially, I believe, by 6 points. Now, fast forward right now, 2022, you've got a similar matchup. You've got Blake Masters against Mark Kelly. Where are they polling? Blake Masters is doing substantially worse than Mark Kelly was. Even Blake Masters' own poll.
You can't say substantially worse than Mark Kelly. I think you're probably talking about Mark Brnovich.
No. I've moved on. We're not talking about Mark Brnovich. So basically polls right now lining up Masters against Kelly, even Blake Masters' own poll that he commissioned, his people commissioned, show him behind Kelly 4 points. And some of the other polls,
which is one of the reasons that we were Brnovichians, because we thought that Brnovich had a more strategic advantage to beating Kelly, which is existentially important to the future of the United States. But that is now behind us, and now Kelly is in the polling, leading Masters, who is the nominee of the Republican Party. So can we put our acrimony behind us and talk about how important it is to win the Arizona?
No. I don't think you understand, Ralph. We're not going to win. And I tell people, you got to circle around the nominee. You got to try to help him. But honestly, there's no way he can come back. There's no way he's going to win. You do the numbers, you do the analysis, you look at the things this guy has said, and he is completely unelectable, at least right now. Maybe down the road in a few years, things will change. I think what we need to do is we need to do some soul searching, and we need to figure out why people are violating the Buckley rule, which you and I have discussed on this show many times. Title William F. Buckley Jr. said, you vote for the candidate who's the most right, who can win the general election. And in this case, it was Mark Grinovich. It wasn't Blake Masters. We all knew Blake Masters was going to get trounced. So how do we go about fixing a problem like that? Okay, Blake Masters had 4 billionaires from out of state who funded him. It's a money problem. Okay, that's part of it. It's
Now, wait a minute. Please just contextualize for our non-political insider listeners or millions of people who are not privy to
billions.
the same information that you are, Rachel, that Mark Kelly has raised over $100 million to fund his race against Blake Masters. True or false?
Well, he's on his way to raising 100 million. I'm trying to remember the numbers. Somewhere between 40 and 60 million is how much he's raised. What Blake Masters has raised pales in comparison. At this point, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to catch up. So yes, a lot of it does come down to money. And if you're going to put in somebody as unlikable as Blake Masters, you can't overcome that money advantage.
Okay, well, just let me say this about that. Okay, I find Blake Masters weird, but really likable. And so please don't call him unlikable, because even though
You find the guy likable, what about saying black people are responsible for gun crimes? What about that is likable?
nothing, absolutely nothing, absolutely nothing. He said a few things that I really, really wish he hadn't said. But the fact is that he is the Republican nominee. And in an effort to bring a Republican majority to the United States Senate and the United States Congress, okay, I am willing to I'm willing to overlook some of his peccadillos and foibles. Okay, and so
Macaca moments?
and I'm sorry,
Macaca moments?
macaca moments. I'm willing to put all of that aside as a good conservative loyalist, which, by the way, you are an even greater conservative loyalist to me. But let's put the primary, our crushing disappointment in the primary aside, and start to look for the wonderful qualities of Blake Masters that we were blinded to during the primary. What do you say?
I'm worried that dislike of him is going to bring out people who normally might not vote so much that it's going to hurt the rest of the ticket. So really popular people like Kari Lake, who should soar to the winning the election, they're going to get hurt by all the anti-Blake Masters people that are coming out to vote.
Oh, hey, listen, Blake is down ticket. Okay, you have been a loyal advocate of I'm sorry, what's her name again?
Kari Lake?
Kari Lake. Okay, from very early on, you have been singing Kelly Lake's praises. You have been an absolute Kelly Lake loyalist, and I give you credit for that. It was a tight race, but she won, and close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. So uniting behind Kelly Lake is the next thing to do for Republican and conservative loyalists like you. So come on, Kelly.
It's Kari, but that's okay.
Kari, come on, Kari.
Well, Kelly Ward is our GOP chair, and they're buddies, so I can understand why people confuse their names. And that's great. People really are, certainly around Kari Lake. I haven't seen a whole lot of Karen Taylor Robson fans saying they're not going to vote for her. So, it's looking fairly hopeful. But I'm just concerned, and my next article is going to be about this. I'm just worried that this Republican red wave that we all predicted was going to sweep the country this fall is going to be, I don't think it's going to be destroyed, but I think it's not going to be as big as we thought it was. We're probably not even going to take back the Senate because of some of these horrible candidates that we have put forth. And my article is going to include an analysis of voter registration numbers, because here in Arizona, for example, we had 3,000 more Democrats than Republicans switch their party to independent within the last 6 months before the primary. So, there's definitely a lot of that funny business going on. I believe a lot of Democrats registered as Republicans so they could vote for people like Blake Masters, who they thought would be unelectable in the general. So we've got Democrats pretty much deciding a lot of our primaries these days. And that's, how big is that effect going to happen on our red wave? My lefty friend told me he is never looked forward to an off year election, non-presidential year election so much as he had this year. He admitted he's one of the ones in his state where he crossed over and voted for a MAGA candidate in the
Right.
primary.
So you bring the you're alluding to, and I want you to pivot to, Rachel, because it's a very consequential issue. The Democrats have been operating in a totally corrupt fashion by attempting to manipulate the Republican primaries, where they have no place, in order to nominate people, unlike, say, Blake Masters, who have no chance of election. And so this is a scandal of epic proportions that you would expect CBS, NBC, ABC, if they weren't tools of the left,
Right.
to be leading every night after night, as how the progressives have been infiltrating the Republican Party in an effort to not, in a grotesquely successful effort to nominate the least electable candidates on the Republican line. So bring it on, truth teller Rachel Alexander.
Well, I obviously wasn't very successful because Masters ended up winning by, I don't know, it was like 15 points. Like, it wasn't even close.
I know, but Blake is going to freak you out by doing jujitsu on Mark Kelly and becoming the next junior senator next from Arizona, next to my adored.
The question is he going to lose by as bad as Martha McSally, 6
He
points?
is not going to lose at all. He is going to shock everybody by a come from behind win. So let's not talk about Blake Masters right now. Talk about the big picture. The big picture is that the Democratic Party has been intervening in the Republican primaries in places like Pennsylvania to successfully attempt to get nominated people who they believe, and in most cases, other than Blake Masters, I believe, are the least electable Republican candidates. So bring it on, Rachel.
Everybody can tune in.
Done the research on this. So
tune into my article next week. I'm going to go over all the Democratic interference. But on that note, let's move on to your modest proposal, what you think that members of Congress should have to do.
Yes, before a member of Congress gets seated in the Congress to cast their votes and appear on C-SPAN and all that kind of stuff, they have to take an oath that they will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And in my town hall, in my red state,
Newsmax.
in my newsmax.com column this week, I talked about how the Congress, which has the constitutional power, should require that before they take the oath of office, they have to pass the oath of office swearing to preserve and defend the Constitution of the United States. They should have to pass a test showing that they know what's in the Constitution of the United States. So it makes a mockery of the Constitution and the oath of office if they don't actually know what they're swearing to preserve, protect, and defend. So
wait, here's a problem though, Ralph. You claim to be so in love with AOC, but she doesn't even know what the three branches of Congress, three branches of government are. Remember her answer?
Listen, I adore AOC. Not as much as I adore you.
She would literally not probably be in Congress, your favorite Congress member, if she had to take your test.
I'm sorry, she's not my favorite congressperson. I just find her to be adorable. But you know what? Before taking the oath of office to preserve and protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, I believe that every elected member of Congress, Republican and Democrat, needs to pass a test showing that they know what's in the Constitution of the United States. How can you pledge, how can you swear to defend it if you don't know what's in it? All 435 members of Congress and 100 US senators ought to be able to pass a test showing that they know what's in the Constitution of the United States before we let them take an oath to defend it.
Well,
So
it seems like a no-brainer. It seems like something that should already be in place now. But
yeah,
you're never going to get the Democrats to agree to it because they'll just claim that it disenfranchises minorities, which, if you think about it, is ridiculous because any minority that makes it to Congress is going to be fairly well off.
it is absolutely ridiculous to claim that it's somehow racist or something prejudicial to require the people who are about to take an oath that they will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution to show us, the voters, that they actually know what's in the Constitution that they're swearing to preserve, protect, and defend. So that was my column at Newsmax.com this week. It was called A Modest Proposal. So I hope you will direct our millions of viewers to go to Newsmax.com, look up Ralph Benko, look up my column about my column called The Modest Proposal, and then send word to their elected representatives in Washington that we demand that they take a test before they get sworn in, showing that they know, at least basically, what's in the United States Constitution.
All right, and then for our third segment, let's move on to a post on our thoughtcriminals.ning.com site about wokeism, where you have discussed what former head of the ACLU, Nadine Strossen, I haven't heard her name since I was growing up, but she was always more of a straight shooter. That was back before the ACLU became completely woke and politically correct. I mean, they still kind of came down on the sides of free speech and stuff. So expand a little bit on what she says, Ralph, because I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with her on this.
All right, well, pick away, but she is now the former head of the ACLU, and she has come right out courageously and directly saying that cancel culture is anti-free speech, and so she's calling out to the left to stand up for free speech, to stand up for the virtues of liberal culture, which is to be able to say what's on your mind without getting canceled. So I gave her a lot of credit, and at thoughtpolice.ning.com, I posted a blog talking, quoting what she had to say about condemning wokeism and condemning those who are opposed to freedom of speech. So I am just saying, Rachel, you're on my website about thoughtcriminals.ning.com, calls for an alliance between the free speech liberals and the free speech conservatives so we can protect our constitutional Bill of Rights values by uniting together.
Okay, well, here's where I have a little bit of a quibble with Strossen. She says that like 64% of cancel incidents are conservatives that get canceled, but a whopping 37% is about liberals getting canceled.
You've got it backwards. 64% are about progressives canceling people.
That's what I said. Well, okay, you don't like me saying liberals and progressives interchangeably. So, okay,
Yeah.
I won't do that. But
We-
the point
two-
is, it's the
two-thirds,
left
two-
canceling the right for
two-thirds.
60%, 64%.
Right,
And then she
right.
said 37% is the right canceling the left. And
Right.
that's where I have a problem, because I don't hardly know anyone on the left who's been canceled by one of us conservatives. Those I would like to see all the examples listed off, showing where she claims a conservative canceled somebody on the left.
Rachel, when I studied journalism, they taught us never let the facts stand in the way of a good story. You are in violation of that principle, but you know what? I respect you for it. So
Are you criticizing your own writing in that blog post, or are you criticizing Nadine's article?
never. I would never criticize my own writing. I am a propagandist and proud, but you do the world a great service in your weekly Monday town hall column by standing for truth rather than for fake news. So I salute you. And all I'm saying is let's embrace our allies on the left who are fighting cancel culture and who are fighting wokeism, which is just a euphemism for totalitarianism. So I salute you, Rachel, and I encourage our listeners to tell their friends to come to thoughtcriminals.ning.com, because we are at the forefront of fighting for free speech. So there you go.
All right, you know what? I think we'll wrap it up on that last note. We'll let you have the last word, Ralph. Thanks to everybody for watching, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.